interrupt everyone's conversation, could we just say a few words and then we'll let you get back to chatting? We're going to stand here because there's a mic somewhere appropriate. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the Gender Knowledges Project. And thanks very much for coming to our launch. It's not really a launch because we're already in full flow, as hopefully many of you will see, but we thought it'd be nice to kind of get an activity that brings everybody together and enables you to kind of talk to each other a little bit and to us. I'm Kath Lambert, for those of you that haven't met me before. I'm based in sociology, and the other members of our team are Sam, taking photographs of us all, Sam Lyle, Anna, Emma, Lana and Katrina, and they're going to say a few words and introduce themselves properly in a minute. And we're also supported in the project by a number of volunteers and people externally and internally who've been kind of helping us out, and we're absolutely indebted to their involvement. As many of you will know, this project has been generously funded by a strategic grant from IATL, where we are of course now, and the aims of the project are to conduct a series of pedagogical experiments, for want of a better way of putting it, pedagogical experiments and research in various forms into the potentialities and also the limit points of interdisciplinarity. And particularly interdisciplinary work on the theme of sexuality and gender, in the broader sense, sexualities and genders in the broader sense, at the postgraduate level. And as we know, there's already been a lot of work done at undergraduate level across the university on interdisciplinarity, but that work is only really just beginning to be done. In fact, there's been a good flurry of it this year, and which we hope this project will be contributing to at the MA postgraduate level. And the outcomes from our experiments and research are to be developed into curricula, which will be available for students recruiting from 2014. At the moment, it's quite hard to imagine exactly what that curriculum will look like, and that was exactly the point of the project, that the project would enable us to kind of play a bit and experiment with things that may well not fit into curricula at the end of the day, because in various ways they don't work. But through that experimentation and failure in some cases, we'll kind of find what does work, and hopefully then be able to turn that into good recruitment for the university and good, interesting intellectual work around interdisciplinarity and gender and sexualities. And our expectation as the project progresses is that the proposed curricula will have a very strong activist and experiential learning element to it, in the form of either research or activist-based placements. And obviously they will be different in different disciplines and different departments, you know, how that kind of placement would work, but broadly having an either research or an activist dimension. And so one aspect of the project that Sam has been working on quite extensively is working closely with local and international businesses, charities, activist and community organisations, and increasingly bringing them and involving them in the project and in the construction of the curricula and the pedagogy. And I guess there's a number of quite complex and contested sets of meanings and relations that are being negotiated through the project and in the implementation of curricula. And these involve, of course, different disciplinary knowledges. You know, we're bringing together different disciplines that often don't really speak the same languages, even if they have kind of themes and questions in common. We're bringing together different disciplinary and research cultures, which is often about the language, but you know, is about the more kind of subtle manifestations of culture, academic culture as well. Different languages, different practices, diverse feminisms in conceptualising gender and sexuality, and tensions and overlaps between teaching and research, which has long been embedded in the history of IATL, coming out of Capital Centre and Reinvention, kind of troubling those relations between teaching and research, bringing more research, so that students are doing more research as part of their teaching and learning, and that we see our teaching, our pedagogic practice, to have a much stronger kind of research dimension. So troubling that binary, troubling the roles between students and staff who are working in a collaborative team, a wider collaborative project, and also the boundaries, the tensions, the productive tensions within and outside of the university. So working kind of within the university as a kind of privileged knowledge space, and with other different knowledge production sites outside of the university. And as you'll see today, there's a few tablets kicking around that have got the website on. So please do have a little play if you haven't looked at the website already. It's kind of really taking off now, thanks to Anna and to all the team for their input. It's beginning to get very lively in terms of its social media, so it's moving way beyond the university. There's lots of very interesting discussions starting to take place, and so every time I look, it's kind of something new has happened, or it pops up in some sort of new forum, which is really exciting for me, often not having instigated any of those things at all. So do have a look, and you will also see on the website and also on one of these postcards that are kicking around the room that we've got a number now of events, and there's more being generated as we speak, but planned over the next 3 months. And we would really welcome all of your support in relation to these events. Obviously, coming along if you can, encouraging students and colleagues to come along and participate, and doing that kind of promotional work within your departments and within your networks. Please do feel free to add to the online conversation. We very much welcome guest blogs. If people have something that they'd like to say, that would be absolutely brilliant. Or through Twitter or whatever your chosen form of communication is these days. That would be really great. So that's all from me, and I'm going to hand over to Emma.
Okay. I'm Emma, I'm based in the Sociology Department, and I'm overseeing the bodies theme for the project. Historically a contested subject within feminist theory and gender and sexuality studies. So we as a team need to identify some sub-themes and some key topics to explore within the project and within the module itself. So initial thoughts centred around sociology of the body, bodies in science, bodies in art, the performing body, performing the body, the political body, and bodies at work. So we are facilitating an event on the 22nd of May, open space learning event in the Reinvention Centre from 2 until 4. So if you'd like to come along and help us generate some content for the module, we would love to see you there. Thank you.
Okay, I take over from there. My name is Katerina. I am working in the German department, but I'm also an IS Early Career Fellow. And I'm working on the theme interdisciplinarity, and I think that you're all very familiar with it because we all use it. It's a quite contested term, although it's very popular. So that's probably something that we can also say about like feminist theory and gender studies, and that's something that we want to use because we think that we cannot just take it for granted. We actually have to critically engage with these terms that we use. So we are trying to, and we're actually doing it already, create an interdisciplinary debate on interdisciplinarity. And how we do this is that we have set up a reading group, and we have identified key texts that people bring, that we discuss, that so we conceptualize, we visualize, we stimulate each other. We've had one event already, and there's another one coming up soon. That would be on May 15th. So it's on the cards, it's on the website, there's some blog entries about it. And it'd be really nice if you disseminate the information, or if you come along, or if you contribute some ideas. That's from me, yes.
And I'm Anna, and I'm overseeing the power theme. And it's really interesting because, so Kath was saying that, that actually having an interdisciplinary conversation sometimes means we don't agree or we don't have the same language or something like that. And actually I'm finding really that the power theme really has a lot of connections to everything. It's because it's such an important kind of theoretical concept for so many different disciplines that everyone has something to say about it, and it's often, it's often basically the same theorists and stuff that we use. So it's actually, I had a film event last week. We watched Meek's Cutoff, which is a great film if you haven't seen it. It's from 2010. It's an American indie film. It's a kind of feminist Western. And, what we actually found, there were people there to discuss the film that were from all different disciplines, and what we actually found was that everyone had a lot of similar things to say about, people had great, people had different great ideas, but they seemed really kind of linked together very well, actually. So there wasn't a whole lot of the kind of, so it's interesting because I think that would work really well for an interdisciplinary gender studies module because, because it's the theory that we all use, really. So there have been 3 emerging themes that, so far anyway, that seem to kind of have come around in different discussions we've had and things. One of them is intersectionality and the kind of the issue of like the relationship between different types of oppression, and also the kind of within feminist discourses, what gets privileged and stuff like that. So that's been really interesting to think about, because obviously when we go to teach feminist and queer studies at the MA level, we really want that to kind of have lots of different voices and make sure that it's a kind of plural thing, not just the kind of most dominant, kind of white middle class feminism, that kind of thing. Another one is the issue of feminist epistemology, which is great because it turns out there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on right now with feminist epistemology, and I'm getting really excited about kind of reading all that stuff. So like Karen Barad is a really great example of that. And then the third one is what we call, the kind of pedagogical aspect of the project, which I found is really interesting to think about in terms of power, because it's a kind of applied feminist epistemology, where you have to think about really actively about how you're going to present things to students and how you're going to get them talking as well, so that it's not just the kind of typical dominant voices that happen in education. It has to be more interactive, but then of course it still has to be a university course somehow. So you have to kind of think about these things in terms of, be very self-aware about power in that way. So so that's the power theme. Thank you.
I'm Lana. I'm based at the Politics and International Studies Department, and I'm working on the queer topic of the project, which is a huge buzzword now. It's queering this and queering that. So I guess the first thing that we are trying to do is actually to unpack this kind of buzzword. What does it really mean when we talk about queer? And then to unpack also in terms of the other topics that we're relating to: bodies, interdisciplinarity, power, and also other disciplines. Another thing that we'll try to do with the queer topic is also trying to understand it not only as a theoretical framework, but also as an idea of political, ethical stance that a researcher or an activist can take. So it's kind of integral to the project and the course itself, because we are looking at it also in terms of the placements and the activism, and we want to have the students to have these kind of skills to look at their studies, at their research, and to have the analytical ability to kind of question, disrupt, to ask what is a sexual order, social order, economic order, and so on. So taking the queer a bit out of the classic gender and sexuality box that it's placed in. And in that respect, we're having Gender and Sexualities Interdisciplinary Workshop, which will take place at 2nd of June, 22nd of June, sorry, 12th of June. See? Oh, sorry. And what we'll try to do is actually look at these topics from different disciplines. And the keynote speaker will be Dr. Raoul Rowe from SOAS Politics, who will talk about the queer question. If there is a queer question, what it may be, who's asking it. So you're more welcome to join, and there's a call for participants and for papers is somewhere circulated, and you can find it also on our lovely website. So please do join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all from us. Some of you may have been asked by Sam on your way in to partake in this activity, whereby you have a think about what you'd like to see in such a module, kind of from your own research perspective, your own teaching perspective. We'd just be interested if there's things that you think are surprising about our choices, our limited choices in lots of ways of themes, things that you think are missing, suggestions for what you might do if you wanted to have some input to something like this, or you would like to see in it. So if you grab a post-it note or scroll on the board sometime while you're here, that would be really, really nice. And there's lots of cakes and fruit and tea and all the rest of it, so we hope you'll stay for a while and help us enjoy those. And obviously if there's any questions for me or any of the members of the team, then please do ask now or get in touch with us via some of the means. Thank you very much.